Thank you. Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the president. The chair lays before the House an enrolled bill.
H.R. 1192, an act to impose requirements on the payment of compensation to professional persons employed in voluntary cases, commenced under Title III of the Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act, commonly known as PROMESA.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 4th, 2021, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Torres, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the subject of my special order.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I come here with the heaviest heart. My beloved Bronx saw the deadliest fire in the history of New York City in more than 3 decades. A fire that's left a death count of 17 residents, including 8 children. A malfunctioning space heater was the immediate cause of the fire in a duplex on the 3rd floor of a 19-story building known as Twin Parks Northwest. And even though the fire was largely limited to the 3rd floor, both the apartment door and the nearby stairwell door were left open, causing the smoke to spread rapidly and widely throughout the 19-story building. Since the building has no fire escapes, and since the stairwells were full of black, toxic smoke, the tenants had no means of escape. The smoke spread so widely that victims were found on every floor. All the fatalities were tenants who died from severe smoke inhalation, from cardiac and respiratory arrest. Almost all the victims, came from Gambia, came from a single town in Gambia. The Gambian community has had roots in Twin Parks Northwest that date back more than half a century. It is hard to imagine a more closely knit community, a community more tied by the bonds of faith and family and fellowship than the Gambian community of Twin Parks Northwest. And so the loss is deeply felt. The victims were as young as 2 and no older than 50. These were victims who had their whole lives ahead of them. Osmani Kone was only 2 years old. Mohammed Jermaine had celebrated his 12th birthday. Sarah Janae was a student at Lehman College. She had dreams of becoming a social worker, of aiding those afflicted by trauma. My heart aches for the father who lost his wife and 2 daughters and son, for the mother who lost her toddler, for the children who lost their parents, for the Jermaine family who've lost 4 members, and the Ducaray family who lost 5. The fire at Twin Parks Northwest was as preventable as it was tragic. If the space heater had shut off automatically, the fire would have been prevented. If the apartment door and the stairwell doors had closed automatically, the spread of the smoke would have been contained and countless lives would have been saved. If the building had a sprinkler system, the fire would have been extinguished. If the building had a 2-way intercom system, the tenants would have been advised by the fire department to remain in their homes instead of fleeing to a smoke-filled stairwell that had become a death trap. And if the tenants had sufficient heat and hot water in their homes, there would have been no need to use dangerous space heaters in the first place. The use of space heater is often a cry for help and a cry for heat. It is often an act of desperation for decent and dignified housing. Madam Speaker, the Bronx is no stranger to deadly fires. New York City's 4 worst fires in the past 30 years have all been in the Bronx, have all been in my district, the South Bronx. The prevalence of deadly fires in the South Bronx is no accident. It is a consequence of systemic disinvestment from the lowest income communities of color, from places like the South Bronx, from the safety and quality of affordable housing. When it comes to fire safety, America is a tale of 2 countries, and New York is a tale of 2 cities. If you live in a luxury development in Manhattan, then fire safety can be taken for granted. But if you live in an affordable housing complex in the South Bronx, there's no guarantee that your building will have a sprinkler system. In fact, it's unlikely to have one. There's no guarantee that your building will have self-closing doors. There's no guarantee that your building will have what experts would consider anything resembling modern standards of fire safety. In America, poor people of color are left to live in conditions that put them at greater risk of losing everything, including their own homes, their own families, their own lives, from a catastrophic fire. If that is not cruel and callous, I'm not sure what would be. We are reminded that safe and decent affordable housing is not a privilege but a right, not a luxury but a necessity, a moral necessity, not an abstraction but a matter of life and death. Building back better should and must mean building back safer for communities long forgotten. On January 9th, the world bore witness to one of the fire department's finest hours of public service. It took the Herculean efforts of more than 200 firefighters to extinguish the fire at Twin Parks Northwest. Firefighters who had run out of oxygen in their tanks ran into burning buildings, saving lives at grave risk to their own. There are no words that can convey more powerfully the heroism shown than the image beside me. The image of Matt Zimfer, a proud member of the FDNY, carrying a baby, a visibly traumatized baby, that he had rescued from the fire at Twin Parks Northwest. It is as much an image of our common humanity as it is of the FDNY's uncommon bravery. For the South Bronx, January 9th is a day that will live in infamy. But the image beside me reminds me that even in a moment of despair, there is cause for hope. Even in a moment of tragedy, in a day of infamy, heroes can and do emerge. And so the overwhelming sense of sorrow that weighs so heavily on my heart is rivaled only by the overwhelming gratitude that I feel for our heroes at the FDNY, a gratitude that will remain with me for as long as I live. May God bless the heroic souls of the FDNY, New York City's bravest. And may God bless the resilient and resourceful souls of the Gambian community of Twin Parks Northwest. I yield back.